Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third chapter of the orientation video for Willow groups. This one is preparing yourself part two. As we look further into preparing ourselves to lead our Willow groups, I would like us to remember these three aspects of our role as group leaders. And I mentioned these very briefly at the end of last chapter's video. Those three aspects, number one, out of those three aspects, number one is to pray continually. I know it seems kind of obvious as a group leader, but I wanted to sort of emphasize this very much above pretty much any other aspect of our preparation as leaders. Prayer is our privilege, and it is our greatest asset. As Christians, we have the blessing of really tapping into this unlimited resource that is given to us by God, which is enabled. It's important for us to know that it is enabled through Jesus' role as the mediator of the new covenant in our lives and as our high priest. And because of what Jesus did, we are able to really just have direct access to God and call upon help and God's intervention and power in the midst of our lives. So prayer really is a primary focus that I would like us to keep within our Willow groups. And it should be a recognizably important aspect of our Willow group experience. In gathering and sharing life with the members of our Willow group, prayer is one of the best ways to deepen our relationship within the group experience with the other members of our Willow group. And it is really a way to invite God's work and in the various corners of our lives. Prayer is also the primary way to prepare yourself to lead the group. And my hope is that you'll get to discover many challenges through your leadership. I predict that your leadership role in your Willow groups will sometimes require more wisdom and patience that you have, and that's a good thing. It may be a very challenging thing, but that's a good thing because that will really push us to resolve those beyond our capacity through prayer. And prayer will be, in fact, the best way to overcome those challenges and those situations as leaders. And by doing that, you'll get to experience a very active and very energetic relationship with God in your leadership of the group. Prayer will also be a primary method you use to invest in the spiritual growth of your Willow group members. And not only in the way that you intercede for them and you bring their prayer topics within your own prayer, but you can set the tone for your Willow group by praying with the group and encouraging them to participate as well. The prayer life of your Willow group will be really a direct reflection of the work that God is doing in your life, and as well as the lives of each of the members of your Willow group. And another thing is that we will continue to build upon this foundation of prayer as we settle into this ministry, as this new ministry of Willow groups. We'll be facing the need to grow in our prayer life, and my responsibility will be to provide the resources and the opportunity for you, the Willow group leaders, to come together and deepen your prayer life and form prayer partnerships with other group leaders. And I want to share this passage to remind us of this incredible privilege that we have. And this is a passage that we find in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 7, and it says, "What other nation is so great as to have their God near them the way the Lord our God is near us whenever we pray to him." This really is a reminder that we have an incredible God who is very much present in the midst of our lives and ministries whenever we engage God through our prayer. The second aspect that I would like us to keep in mind for your role as a Willow group leader is care. Number two is care. Essentially, as Willow group leaders, you will be caregivers, and we are trusting you as the first line of pastoral care for the members of your Willow group. The truth is that I need your help. I really need your help in providing pastoral care to the whole of our congregation. much as I try to get to know everyone at a personal level, and I will try my best to really do this in the area of pastoral care in our church, I know I will not be able to maintain a close relationship with everybody at all times. It is critical for me to partner with you as a Willow Group leader in this ministry of care for our church. First Peter chapter 5 tells us, be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, watching over them, not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And indeed, this is the flock that God has entrusted to your care. And I hope that you are excited about that aspect of your role as a leader. Now, some practical aspects in approaching pastoral care and leadership in general for your group is these three things. One is intentionality. It's so important for us to make it a priority, really, to get to know the members of our group and spend some quality time and let them know that this is not just an aspect of our church life, but it is one that's like the glue that really holds the life of the congregation together. And make sure that your group knows that you are invested in their spiritual growth, in their spiritual formation, and things that happen through their lives. Second thing to keep in mind as you approach care is to be very consistent. Establishing a high level of consistency in your group is going to be important. Meeting on a regular basis, not counseling, trying your best not to cancel meetings, and finding a way to consistently communicate and staying connected with the lives of your group members is going to be an important part of that role. And naturally, as you stay connected, when we are connected to people, we stay invested in people, and that's an important part of our leadership. And the third part is to really try to make it personal, in as many ways as you can, to recognize what's going on in the life of your group members, to remember. And this is where I say it's not possible for us to remember everything, but when we pay attention to the little things and the little details, it can make a huge difference in the lives of those who we are caring for. One last thing I want to mention in the area of care is that you are essentially, as a group leader, becoming the ministry. And I love that idea. I love that I can partner with you as you become the ministry. Our goal should be to, especially the kind of ministry culture that I would like us to cultivate here at Willow Glen, is that this, in particular, the ministry of care and ministry of small group and spiritual growth, doesn't default straight into the staff of our church, mainly the pastors, but it is a ministry that we all carry together. It's a ministry that we all partake in and invest in and develop together. And then, of course, there will be some areas of ministry that you're not able to do. And for those, please don't hesitate to contact me or Pastor Susan so that we can be involved and support you in those areas. But for ministries of care and pursuing this growth and continue to develop this relationship, I hope that you can see yourself as the core of the ministry and as the one who, along with us, propels this area of our church further into the future. The third thing that I hope that you do as a group leader, as a Willow group leader, is to tell us what's going on. I know that sounds like a very small thing, but that's a huge thing for us. I love this passage that we see in Luke chapter 15, where the prodigal son returns, and Jesus explains that there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. And the idea of that, and the way that I want like us to bring that, is that every time we see a story of redemption, every time we see a story of someone growing in their faith, someone making a realization in their life, making the right steps to really deepen their relationship with Christ. That's a huge celebration. And we want to know what's going on, and we want to be in constant communication with you as a group leader, both myself and Pastor Susan, to know what's going on in the life of the group, of our Willow groups. And I want you to know that there is no story too small, right? It's true, that we can't have those stories where, someone who was living the life of a criminal just converts and then turns into a preacher or something like that. I don't know. I remember those stories back in the missionary stories of when the first missionaries came to Korea. A lot of criminals turned their lives around and became preachers and pastors and things like that. Now, we're not expecting those stories to be the predominant stories in your groups. We are expecting other kinds of stories. And sometimes they're going to seem very small, but there is no such thing. The everyday life stories of the things that are happening in people's lives, of how God is working, those details are huge. And in many ways, they will be miraculous. And we want to know about them, and we want to be here to not only hear that, but further explore those areas of lives and see how we can help and support the lives of those who are experiencing those changes and those steps in their lives through your group experience. We want you to know that we are always here. And that communication between you as a group leader and myself is going to be really important. So please don't hesitate. I'm all ears, and we want to keep those stories coming, those testimonies building in our church. Now, as a wrap up, I do want to mention sort of a disclaimer and an acknowledgement that some of the elements that I have shared today, you will think, well, that doesn't seem quite necessary for my specific group or my group environment. And that's going to be absolutely true. Primarily because the groups that we start with will be people that you've known for years and sometimes decades. And there will be people who you are naturally already very deeply connected with, and people with whom you share life stories on a consistent basis already. And therefore, you might be thinking that some of the elements that I've mentioned, doing those intentionally might not be necessary. And that's true in this particular case. But we are not looking for our Willow groups to remain just as they are, as they start right now. Our goal, our aim is to continue to grow in our Willow groups and continue to invite people to our Willow groups that are unfamiliar to us and to our church environment and to faith. So when that starts happening, already having some of the elements that I mentioned, especially those three aspects that I mentioned today about praying, caring, and telling us what's going on, and making that sort of a routine and a sort of a comfortable part of your ministry life is going to be important as we continue to grow in the life of Willow groups. So that's it for today's orientation video. As always, if you have any comments or questions, you can leave them in the comment section, or you can also email those to me at jcook@wgumc.org. I'd be happy to talk to you about any questions that you may have, or anything that you want to be in conversation with me about. So I will see you in our next orientation video. Bye.